Elena sat paralyzed, her breath shallow, her knuckles white as they clutched the edge of the table. The weight of my words pressed down on her, an invisible force that stripped away every ounce of confidence she once carried. I stared at her unblinking, my voice low and steady, a blade against the trembling silence. "If you sleep with anyone other than me," I said, my tone void of mercy, "you won't like the consequences." A shudder ran through her blue eyes brimming with unshed tears. "I will find out, Elena," I continued, leaning forward, letting each syllable sink into her bones. "And when I do, your lover won't walk away unscathed. His groin will be shattered, his ribs crushed, his nose broken." I tilted my head, watching the last remnants of defiance drain from her face. "So pray," I whispered, my voice laced with quiet menace, "because my investigation has already begun." Silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. She opened her mouth, then closed it, knowing there was no lie, no excuse, no feigned remorse that could undo what I had seen. Zurich, the city of wealth and power, was no stranger to betrayal. Beneath its polished floors and champagne-fueled excess, trust was a fragile currency. One misstep, and it shattered beyond repair. I had spent years mastering this world, carving out a name for myself as an elite financial strategist, a man who could predict risks before they even surfaced. I understood numbers. I understood deception. And more importantly, I understood people. Elena had once been my equal, a woman of ambition and intelligence, her sharp wit matched only by her striking beauty. She managed one of Europe's most exclusive five-star hotels, a playground for the world's most powerful businessmen. We had been envied, a couple who commanded every room we entered, unstoppable in our rise. But something had changed. It started with the late nights, the unexplained absences, the distracted glances over candlelit dinners. A scent of cologne, one that didn't belong to me, clung to her silk scarves. Then came the whispers of something deeper. Her phone always face down. Her passwords suddenly changed. The casual defensiveness when I asked where she had been. I had built my career on reading between the lines, deciphering deception wrapped in tailored suits and polished smiles. Now I turned that skill toward my own wife. The final crack appeared on a crisp autumn evening. Elena had been distant for weeks, her warmth fading into something cold and unfamiliar. That night, she came home late, offering the usual excuse, a last-minute VIP event at the hotel. But as she stepped into our penthouse, something was off. Her lipstick was slightly smudged, her hair a little too perfectly styled. And then there was the glow. Not the exhaustion of a long day, but the kind of satisfaction that came from something illicit. She kissed me lightly before slipping into the shower. And that was when I saw it. A single diamond-studded earring glinting under the soft living room lights. Not hers. I picked it up, turning it between my fingers, feeling the cold weight of certainty settle in my chest. The next morning, when she left for work, I went through her car. I had never done it before, never felt the need. But this time, I was methodical. In the glove compartment, buried beneath receipts, I found it. An elegant matchbox from a luxury hotel in Milan. We had never been there together. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Confrontation gave the guilty room to lie, to twist the truth, to erase evidence. I needed more. Something undeniable. So I hired a professional. Marcus Lehman, a private investigator with a reputation for ruthlessness and discretion. Within a week I had my answers. Elena had a lover. Vincent Moreau, a French investor with deep pockets, and an even deeper sense of entitlement. Charming, arrogant, the kind of man who took what he wanted without considering the consequences. But he was wrong. My rage was not the kind that burned hot and reckless. It was cold, calculated. Violence could wait. I would let them dig their own graves first. That Friday I set my trap. I told Elena I had an urgent business trip to London. She barely hid her relief. That night, she went straight to Vincent's penthouse. Marcus had already planted a hidden camera in the elevator lobby. I watched as they embraced, as they whispered to each other, as she laughed, a laugh I hadn't heard in months. I sat in my office, watching the footage in silence, my jaw tight. Then, I picked up my phone and made a single call. The next morning, she returned home early, wrapped in an expensive coat that wasn't hers. Her walk was careful, as if her body still carried the echoes of another man's touch. I was waiting, standing in the kitchen, silent, watching. She froze when she saw me. "Elena," I said, my voice deceptively calm. A flicker of fear crossed her face. She wasn't stupid. She knew. "Sit." She obeyed, hands trembling. I slid my phone across the table and pressed play. She watched in horror as the video unfolded before her. The stolen kisses, the whispered words, the betrayal captured frame by frame. Her breath hitched. I leaned in, my eyes locked onto hers. "Your lover won't walk away unscathed." Tears welled in her eyes. She knew I meant every word. So pray. Because this was only the beginning. She thought she could still control the situation. That I would yell, demand explanations, throw her out that night. That would have been too easy. Vincent Morrow had taken something from me. Now I was going to take everything from him. So I played the role of the calm, wounded husband. I let Elena believe she had a chance. I let her believe I could forgive. I let her believe she could have it both ways. But she had already lost. She just didn't know it yet. Vincent Morrow was a man who thrived on power, wealth, and influence. A snake in an expensive suit, he used his charm as a weapon, climbing higher and higher in the cutthroat world of European investments. He moved through society with the arrogance of a man who believed himself untouchable, who thought his carefully crafted empire could never fall. But Vincent had a weakness. He had built his kingdom on lies. What he didn't know was that his company was already a sinking ship, its foundations rotting beneath him. A series of risky, illegal trades had left his empire on the verge of collapse. He had buried the evidence well, manipulated numbers, bribed officials, and silenced anyone who got too close. But not from me. With Marcus's help, I unearthed everything. Every falsified document, every fraudulent transaction, every secret bribe whispered in the shadows. I traced his deception like a hunter following footprints in the snow. And then, when I had gathered enough to destroy him, I did something he never saw coming. I reached out to his competitors. The information I leaked was just enough to spark fear. Whispers that sent ripples through the market. Investors grew nervous. Partners began questioning. Stockholders started selling. Within days, his empire was in free fall, unraveling thread by thread. Vincent Morrow was about to become a ruined man. And he had no idea I was the one pulling the strings. 3 days after confronting Elena, I gave her one last chance to come clean. I took her to an expensive restaurant, ordered her favorite wine, and looked into the eyes of the woman I had once trusted above all else. "Is there anything you want to tell me?" I asked, giving her the opportunity to salvage what little dignity she had left. She hesitated. I watched the flicker of indecision in her eyes, the wheels turning in her mind, weighing the risks, calculating the consequences. And then she made her choice. She lied. She told me she had been distant because of work stress, that she loved me, that there was nothing else. That was all I needed. I leaned back in my chair, took a sip of my drink and smiled. "Good," I said. I needed to hear that. Because by the next morning, she would lose everything. At exactly 9 a.m., every major financial news outlet in Europe reported that Vincent Morrow's company was under investigation for fraud. By noon, his investors had fled, his accounts were frozen, and Swiss authorities were preparing formal charges. By 3 p.m., his office was raided, his employees scrambling, his empire collapsing before his eyes. And by 6 p.m., I was sitting in my penthouse, watching Elena's phone light up with desperate messages from him. She stared at the screen, her hands trembling. Her face paled as realization dawned, the pieces falling into place with sickening clarity. She turned to me, her voice barely above a whisper. "What did you do?" I leaned forward, my voice calm, unshaken. "I warned you." Then, with deliberate precision, I placed a stack of papers in front of her. Divorce papers. Elena was still trying to process the storm that had just torn through her life when she noticed the fine print. The clauses she had once skimmed over, too confident, too secure in her place by my side to think they would ever matter. Our prenuptial agreement was ironclad. She had cheated. And because she had cheated, she walked away with nothing. No penthouse. No bank accounts. No luxury cars. Nothing. She looked at me, her blue eyes wide with panic, her breath shaky. Damien, she pleaded, her voice breaking. Please. I made a mistake. I stood, adjusting my tie, looking down at the woman who had once been my world. You did, I agreed. And now you live with it. She broke into sobs, but I felt nothing. No anger. No regret. Just cold, calculated satisfaction. Then I delivered the final blow. I suggest you find somewhere to stay, I said, walking to the door. Because Vincent won't be able to save you. And he didn't. Within a week, Vincent Mora was arrested. His assets were seized. His name forever tarnished, his reputation reduced to ash. Elena tried to reach out, sending message after message, begging for another chance. I never responded. Instead, I moved on. I focused on my work, on my empire, on my future. I rebuilt. I thrived. And I left her, and her pathetic lover, exactly where they belonged. In the past. Because in the end, revenge isn't about rage. It isn't about reckless fury. It's about patience. It's about strategy. It's about control. And when you play the game right, they don't even see it coming. They destroy themselves.